Thank you, friend, for joining me today. Thank you so much for your prayers and support for this ministry. It is a joy to serve the Father, the only true, loving, living, and literal God, Jehovah, and His only begotten divine, literal Son, Emmanuel, Jesus Christ. You see, friends, the Christian church, so called, led by the Roman Catholic Church, emphasizes unity of all those who profess the Nicaea Council. Today, as the Nicaea and the ecumenical movement is being celebrated, the next stage on the path to Christian unity is broadcast and propagated by the Vatican. According to this news, as the church celebrates the 1700 year anniversary years of Trinity, the Council of Nicaea, the author reflects on the ongoing evolution of ecumenism, which the first ecumenical council of the church set in motion, which was led, by the way, by the pagan emperor Constantine. This year, the church worldwide observes the 1700 anniversary of the First Council of Nicaea. What was in the First Council of Nicaea? Establishing that there are three co-eternal, co-equal, three gods, three persons, three in one. Held in the Roman city of Nicaea in present-day northwestern Turkey, between May and July 325, 4 years after the first Sunday law was established by Constantine the Great Apostate. This gathering of bishops and leaders of the church was the first to be identified as ecumenical, the definition of which has evolved in the last 1,700 years. A great deal, good and regrettable, has occurred in the life of the church in those 17 centuries. So the church, led by the Roman Catholics, established the doctrine of the triune in Nicaea. And since then, everyone who will not subscribe to their absolute truth and absolute three-in-one God are banned and are burned. And today, they are being booked into the box of being called heretics. The Council of Nicaea, which is the first and foremost creed for the Roman Catholic Church, triune God, coincided with profound changes in the Greek-Roman world in general and in the Christian world in particular. At the end of the 3rd century and beginning of the 4th, the Roman Emperor Diocletian unleashed one of the most brutal persecutions of Christians in the history of the empire, which the Roman Catholic Church, by the way, acknowledges, but they are also the participants. Although the thoroughness of the brutality varied from place to place, in addition to wiping out any challenge to his authority, speaking about the Roman Catholic Church, and to further consolidate his power and secure the borders of his sprawling empire, church and state, which extended from Persia to Britain, he restructured the empire into 4 self-governing units led by 2 senior emperors known as Augusti and 2 junior colleagues understood to be their designated successors called Caesares. In 306, a year after Diocletian's abdication, Constantine was proclaimed emperor by his army at Ibericum, present-day York, England. He eventually emerged victorious in the civil wars against his peers, Maxentius and Licinius, to become the sole ruler of the Roman Empire by 324. During this period, Constantine attributed his victories to a special relationship he felt with the God of the Christians, in whose sign he conquered. By the cross, he dreamed. Another spirit brought him to use that as an emblem for his victory. for his conqueror, for his conqueror status in the Roman Empire, including his victory over Maxentius at the Milvian Bridge on October 28, 312. Thus, in a period of roughly 20 years, Christianity emerged as the favored religion of the emperor, and hence the empire, as with Diocletian consolidating power and securing the borders, ranked high among Constantine's priorities. Now you're hearing from the horse's mouth the true origin of Trinity. The political and the religious spheres were not separate then. The division and chaos, whether political or religious, were to be avoided and overcome at all costs. There were several challenges disrupting the unity of Christians in his realm. However, the most significant involved the non-Trinitarian priest, or I should say presbyter, Arius, whose works and writings had been burned and who was later on poisoned, whose teachings denied the full divinity of Christ. This is the error of those who believe the Roman Catholics. They ascribe to Arius the full blame that he denies the full divinity of Christ. In fact, his own writings and teachings were burned so that no one else could dispute the lies of the Roman Catholic Church, especially the popes. Foremost was Alexander, Pope the first, and later on his champion, the Trinitarian champion, Athanasius, who became Pope. Arius was framed as evil. Arius was framed as a rebel. Now you know, if you are in the seminar, just like what I have experienced, Arius was the villain. Arius should not be emulated. Arius is considered enemy number one in Christianity. But what did Arius brought to the table? He believed in the begottenship of Christ, the literal sonship of Christ. And he did not deny the divinity of Christ. But this is to be disputed by scholars because there is no extant proof that his writings were able to survive. Only the gossip and rumor survived that he did not believe in the full divinity of Christ. But did he? Did he really believe what the accusers told everyone else? You see, the framing and the lies continue 1700 years, 1700 years ago. And I was taught that Arius is a bad person who denies the divinity of Christ. Yes, in the seminaries, in the educational systems of all Christendom, books had been written about him being the evil one. But was Arius truly evil, or was he a victim of false witness or propaganda? I used to believe that Arius was a heretic, but now I felt and I sensed that he was indeed labeled falsely. This was not the first time Constantine had to deal with inner Christian issues. Now remember, pagan emperor who was not yet baptized, as we will read in this article, dictated what the church should believe. In 314, he had convoked the Synod of Arles to address the controversy of the Donatists, a heretical sect in North Africa. There are true heretical sect, and there are true Bible-believing leaders during Constantine's reign. Ultimately, it was Constantine who, without consulting the Bishop of Rome, decided on and convoked the first council to be held in Nicaea. Thank you for admitting that, for being honest. The author being named as Elias Malone. He is, according to this article, a PhD, Doctor of Philosophy from the Greek Roman tradition. So Constantine was the one who dictated Nicaea, the Council of Nice. And he is the one who arbiter to believe the triune God. There was no unanimous or even majority view of adhering or subscribing to three in one person. They know three in one co-eternal persons. They know that the Bible does not teach that, the bishops during that time. The fact of the not yet baptized Constantine. So even the Catholic admits, the Roman Catholic author, a doctor of philosophy, Malon, admitted, where in fact in seminaries, even in the Adventist seminaries, they're still open to the fact that he was a baptized or not yet baptized. But this article confirms that Constantine, when he led and dictated the Nicaea Council in 325, he was not yet baptized, convoking and presiding over the first ecumenical council, and has been a source of some cognitive dissonance philosophically and theologically between the Christian East and the Christian West. Remember also the Waldensians were being hunted. They preserved the Word of God, the Bible. This dissonance is perhaps most evident in the iconography of the council. In the Christian East, where Constantine is revered as a saint, along with his mother Helen, the emperor is depicted in the center of the icon as presiding over the council. Helen was a great lover of arts and buildings of Christianity. In fact, when you go to the Holy Land, Israel, you will see the architecture and the legacy of Constantine's mother, Helen, the beautiful edifice that was built, in which tradition now stands pointing to where Jesus used to minister. Seated on either side of him without precedence in synodal fashion are the bishops depicted in Byzantine vestments, each holding the gospel. A vanquished Arius lies at the feet of the council fathers. So remember, just like Martin Luther, Arius was tried and was condemned as heretic. In the art of the Christian West, the delegate of the Pope is flanked by two cardinals and presides over the council. Bishops in Latin Rite vestment listen and confer with each other as the heresies of Arius, who stands as if trial are read aloud. Constantine usually is depicted at the periphery of the image, being informed of the proceedings rather than guiding them. The Western portrayal applies a much later Western understanding of ecumenical councils. It is important to understand the development of the ecumenical councils in a constantly dividing Christian world. Almost every council, including Vatican II, 1962, 1965, has produced dissidents, some of whom became schismatic and excluded, oftentimes by self-exclusion from communion with the Church of Rome. He is probably talking about those who will not want to subscribe to the triune God of Rome. While not directly connected with an ecumenical council, the mutual excommunication of the Pope and the ecumenical patriarch in 1054, which is the Great Schism, we are taught in the seminary that this is where the iconoclastic separation, the schism, the Great Schism of the East and the West Catholicism became known in history, which began the formal drifting apart of the Catholic West and the Orthodox East, has led to Orthodox to reject all Catholic general councils after 1054 as non-ecumenical. But by the way, both East and West adhere to the triune God as a non-ecumenical because of the non-participation of the Orthodox, both technically and theologically. This is a crucial point. So the point of the matter here is that they want the East and the West to be reconciled under one banner because they both believe in the triune God. The word ecumenical originally referred to that which involved all Christians from the inhabited world, which were in communion or agreement in the faith. Tragically, each ecumenical council made the meaning of the word ecumenical more restrictive and less inclusive. In the 19th century, Protestant missionary groups began to realize that the almost endemic divisions of Christianity made the message of the gospel less credible. The division among Christians was not a situation to be endured, but sin to be overcome. Slowly, a movement to restore unity among Christians began. The two great and horrible wars of the 20th century, waged primarily, although not exclusively, by Christians, gave a terrifying impetus to the emerging movement. Among other initiatives, the World Council of Churches was founded in 1948, which the Seventh-day Adventist Church participated in the 1970s. With the 1964 publication of Vatican II's decree on ecumenism, Unitatis Redintegratio, the Catholic Church committed to the search for Christian unity. How? Triune God, Trinity, Sunday worship. But an interesting phenomenon occurred. With Christians committing to search for unity, the meaning of the word ecumenical took on a new meaning, opposite to its original use. For centuries, ecumenical meeting was among believers in communion with each other. Now it came to mean a meeting among believers who do not share communion, yet hope to restore it. Hope to restore it. The Ecumenical Council of Nicaea, wherein Trinity was established, the doctrine of three co-eternal, co-equal gods, or persons that make one God, was not ecumenical in the same way as ecumenical would be understood today for 21st century Christians. The goal of the Trinity doctrine, or Nicaea, is unity in faith among Christians. If Constantine the Great wants his kingdom to be prosperous and peaceful, using Christianity to unite in one God, Trinity, the same is true today, the advocacy. But the methodology has changed almost 180 degrees, and if we are honest, continues to evolve. Francis and Ecumenical Patriarch Bartholomew of Constantinople have contributed greatly to the evolution. One hears of an ecumenism of friendship. It is obvious the two held each other in esteem. Neither one minimalized the theological differences that divide them. Neither one denied the importance of ongoing theological dialogue. However, both men realize people can differ, even significantly, and still have a profound friendship and affection for each other. Francis and Bartholomew show us we do not have to achieve perfect unity, perhaps an eschatological goal anyway, before we can love each other and work together to achieve the many things we hold dear and in common, like the triune God, Sunday worship. An example of this newer form of ecumenical encounter is the annual visits of the two church leaders. On June 29, the feast of Peter and Paul, patrons of Rome, the ecumenical patriarch sends a delegation to attend. The celebration presided over the Bishop of Rome. On November 30, a feast of Andrew, patron of Byzantium, refounded by Constantine as New Rome, but commonly called Constantinople until the adoption of its Turkish name, Istanbul, in 1930. The Bishop of Rome sends a special envoy to celebrate the patronal feast of the Ecumenical Patriarchate, now located in an assuming complex in Turkey's bustling cultural, economic, and historical capital. By any measure, 1700 years is a long time. The weight of history is heavy, and there is a temptation to let it dominate the observance. Nicaea is a historical event. Trinity was established then, 325. To be sure, however, as with many religious observances, it is an event that is not merely archival. Nicaea is about the past, but not just the past. As the shift of the Christian understanding the meaning of ecumenical demonstrates, it might point to a new way. Trinity might point to a new way and provide Christians today with a new impulse and tools for the next stage in the road to Christian unity. Did you hear that, friends? Trinity will be the basis of the unity of Christian faith. Nicaea. The Seventh-day Adventist Church today had departed since 1980 during the 53rd General Conference session led by the father of Ted Wilson, Neil Wilson. Today, the Seventh-day Adventist Church confused who Jesus is, who will come. Is it God or is it the Son of God who will come? The theme for the session today and the 62nd General Conference session is Jesus is coming, I will go. Ted Wilson's father, including Ted Wilson today, advocates Trinity. They are on the path to unite the Christian faith, knowingly or unknowingly. You see, friends, the apostles of Jesus Christ never taught Trinity and never unite under the triune God and never will unite and baptize in the triune Trinity formula. Their writings, especially Matthew's writings, were twisted and turned into a Trinitarian view. And if you are not discerning or if you do not have a keen perception in mind, you will be deceived. by both the Seventh Adventist Church today, who departed from the faith 45 years ago, and the Roman Catholic Church, who departed from the Bible faith 1,700 years ago. The history of the Roman Catholic Church and the history of the Seventh-day Adventism today are in track. They are both parallel, walking, working, waking up people towards unity. Now, there are Seventh-day Adventists who might argue that they are Sabbath keepers. Yes, the Sabbath, 7-day Sabbath, is the true commandment of God. But the first commandment of God is, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Exodus 20, verse 3. This contradicts the triune Trinity doctrine. You see, friends, if you follow the majority, the broad way, you will end up in the wrong destination. You will end up in error. Our church, the Seventh-day Adventist, had started on a biblical foundation. Today, the Seventh-day Adventist Church pays lip service to biblical text, but twist it and turn it into the road to Rome. If there is a time for us to consider where we are and what we are standing on, it's time to open up our Bibles. And we have the spirit of prophecy through the work and ministry and writings of Ellen G. White. We should not be deceived. We must not be deceived. If you follow the conference church today, then you are on your way to be united with Rome, whether you accept this or not, because the God of Rome, the Roman Catholics, and the God of Adventism today, 45 years ago, is the same God that is united with them and thus being worshipped by them. Trinity is error. The three angels' messages reject the Trinity doctrine, reject the teachings of Rome. The potency of the three angels' messages is to proclaim the error and call people to come out of Rome, because Babylon, those who worship the triune God, had fallen. They have departed from the pure Bible principles. May God our Father continue to bless you, Jehovah, and His only begotten divine Son, Jesus Christ, Emmanuel, comfort you and be gracious to you with their Spirit, the Spirit of God our Father, Spirit of His Son, the Father and the Son, and their